Low rider today. I'm sitting at the table. Yeah, because I kind of have my back to you.
Oh, no, I'm okay.
Bit different. It's a workshop.
It is a workshop.
Or we should have a little hammer.
All right, do you want to go ahead and?
It's on.
Yeah, you can unmute and record.
Okay.
Yeah, that was a great organization. Thank you.
Recording in progress.
We are recording.
All right. Good morning, everyone. Now call this capital improvement plan workshop to order. Today is April 22nd, 2025. It is 10 a.m. Thank you to the council. Thanks for everyone joining today. Appreciate the attendance. Thanks to everyone joining online. Not on the agenda, but we should go ahead and start the meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. So please join me in honoring our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you. So at this time, we can open the floor to public comment. Residents are encouraged to share their thoughts on matters related to the agenda or any other concerns they wish to address. This will be the appropriate time to comment on any specific thoughts unless I call upon you during the discussions for the agenda items at any time. Go ahead and start in the room if we would like to. I mean, floor is yours, Shelby, if you would like to.
Hi, my name's Shelby Amos. I live over the Hills Drive where the pond is. And basically, we just have some issues with the lake. It's not as much as the closely photos. But we have, back in 2021, I reached out to Greg, the mayor, and a few village members, Linda, Wendy, and Jem. I said there's a great amount of algae and trash accumulating in front of our home. I'll fish out the trash when I can, but it continues to float down here. And it's just like 20 plus feet of just algae, and it smells and attracts snakes. And so 2022, a few months later, I had Tara Lee, which is our HOE manager. She reached out to the club corp and she said, I'm not positive, but who takes care of the maintenance of the lake behind the homes? We're asking that litter and debris that be removed. A month later, I didn't hear a response. I said, you have a response to this message back in February. We have a woman in her 80s and me with a baby trying to fish out debris and trash. Like I'm just curious whose responsibility is it. 2 months later, we had Stephen Karash from the Hills. He actually, I called him so many times, I think I probably annoyed him, that he finally sent somebody over to spray the algae. And he said the ponds will begin to clear up and they'll be beautiful moving forward. Well, it just continued. Like debris buildup, really disgusting. All the trash floats down from the club and just sits in our cove. So then, this has been 4 years now, right? So 2025, I emailed Miss Angie, and I said I would like to request for the Hills Pond debris cattails, the cove to be addressed at your next meeting today. This has been an ongoing issue for 4 years since we've moved in. I've been faced with the golf course saying it's a homeowner issue, the HOA saying it's the golf course issue, and now someone's informing that it could be the mud's responsibility. The debris floats down from the club, styrofoam cups, people's shoes, golf club covers, water bottles, coffee cups, you name it. And it just sits there. And then the water is sinking now, so it's just like creating this mess. Me and my daughter, we love to go down there and fish, but recently there's been so many snakes out there because they sit in all these cattails and I'm not enjoying it anymore. And so, obviously. So it's just, this is 2025, so 5 years now, and just nothing, no one's taking responsibility for it. And so I'm just curious, who's responsible for it? Like you can see the difference here. This is my side, and then that's the golf course's side. It's a big difference. And I don't know if it's a golf course, I don't know if it's the mud, I don't know if it's not the homeowners because my property line doesn't go past the water. But you can see in this quick photo, it's my last one. I kind of like screenshotted this. I'm right here. So I'm the only one who has a cove like that. And so all this trash from the club floats, and then it gets stuck in my cove. and it doesn't go anywhere. It just sits there until I fish it out. And so you can see here like this purple. This is my neighbor's house over here on the left, and then this is on the right. This whole thing is a cove that's now full of algae, cattails, debris, and trash. So I'm no professional, but I was hoping maybe we could fill in the cove, or we could find out whose responsibility it is and they can maintain it more often. I don't know, but I would like this, obviously. But that's my plea. That's it. And then one last thing, is even our HOA, Oberg Properties, they sent me a letter. It's an urgent request for maintenance of pond and lake. To whom it may concern, on behalf of Oberg Properties, I'm writing to formally request immediate attention to the pond and lake area on the Hills Drive. The current condition of this water feature is not only unsightly, but presents possible safety hazards for both residents and vendors. We have confirmed the Hills Golf Course that they're not responsible under jurisdiction of Lakeway Mud. Let's see here. We've had many complaints from residents. It's becoming increasingly difficult to justify the current condition. We urge Lakeway Mud to treat this as a difficulty. Public concern. Let's see. Anyways, that's it. So you guys can, you guys can read a lot. I don't want to read it all to you, but. And here's my pictures. That's it. I just want to know whose responsibility it is and if somebody can give some attention to it. Well, I've tried for 5 years, but I've got nowhere.
Mayor, can I ask a question?
Yes.
Right. And I don't want to get into a long longer about it, but what's your understanding of who owns that pond?
So I reached out to the golf course.
Uh-huh.
The golf course maintained it once, but he was very clear that it's not their responsibility, that their responsibility is the water on the golf course's side, not on the homeowner's side. But then all of our, what are they called? Property lines have made it clear that we're not, property owners are not responsible.
Yeah.
For, like where the rock wall is right here, anything past that rock wall,
Yeah.
which is like where I put my fence up to, anything past that is not
If they're gonna
my
put this
homeowner's
up there,
responsibility.
well, it's
Do you
ours.
have any other information about who might actually be the owner of the pond?
So I asked Miss Angie and she thought maybe it was the mud.
I talked to the mud and they said that the land underneath it and the water, basically, the water is TCEQ, but anything that's coming from the club, it's the club's responsibility to clean it out. And that's what I heard.
So is that Earl saying that just anything that flows from the club they're responsible for,
Yes,
regardless of where it lands?
Well, basically, if it lands on the property owner, if it goes on the property owner's property, it would be the property owner. But the way the pictures that we saw that Shelby sent, I showed Earl and he says that's the club's responsibility.
But they have jurisdiction over the land underneath the pond? So wouldn't it,
Land.
The tax map has
Yeah.
the whole water being in the golf club's property.
Part of the
Yeah.
club, right?
Yeah, it's the club.
yeah, that's
So
interesting.
maybe
Yeah,
I'm in the
'cause-
wrong meeting.
Well, this is very helpful.
Yeah, no, this is great.
Very happy you
Yeah.
came and brought this information to us, but kind of who owns the property would sort of determine what response, if any, our village council could take to it.
Okay.
But appreciate you bringing that up.
So, I mean, I reached out to the mud or the
Yeah.
golf course multiple times, and so could you guys?
Yeah, Shelby, what I can do,
Instead of just me?
yeah, Shelby, yeah. No, what I'll do is I'm happy to talk to Earl as well, is confirm information with Earl's understanding.
And we have
And then there's
this,
a couple other things I need to talk to the club about.
Because
Anyways,
I see
So
them, like they
I'll clump it
spray
in.
on the outside and on the bridge side, but they've never come by our properties except
Yeah.
for one time on their road.
Do we have
And we-
ordinances, don't we?
we have,
Getting away.
Yeah,
that's
actually all-
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're not gonna solve the problem.
no, we'll
Okay.
just for your information, Mayor,
follow up with you and we can figure it out.
Mayor,
Thank you.
Yeah.
for your information, Eddie Martinez was contacted and he said he would take care of it. That's one of the maintenance guys at the club.
Excellent. Okay, All right, Sean, thank you.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate it.
Just one last, sorry. I don't see a way that the club could get to it without going into the condos property. Yeah.
All right, we'll figure it out. Thank you, Marty.
Hello, Marty.
A boat, yeah. You'll row it.
Well, they-
Marty, you just walk across.
That's what they
Confusing answer.
Might get up to your
That's-
knees.
No, here, call Joe. Great. Are we all together over here? Is this excellent? Who wants to go ahead?
Marty,
You want me to kick it off?
yeah, that's what Gary wanted you to kick it
I
off.
was gonna ask for Gary was.
Yeah.
Oh,
You're in his.
I'm in his shoes. So my name's Mari Wolf. My husband Gary Wolf couldn't be here today. He's on a plane. This has been a project that he's worked on for a number of years. He's very passionate about. So I'm kind of representing him and myself. And we live at 62 Tiburon Hills. We believe that the village has done a great job in capital planning and execution with examples including the Hills Drive walking trail, the dog park, the play structure, the upgrades to the park restrooms, the trail, parking lot, and soccer field. All great upgrades that are benefiting all the residents of the Hills. And what we're promoting is what we believe is another positive upgrade that will benefit all residents. And that's upgrading the existing park pavilion to make it a year-round asset by enclosing a portion of it. As you know, it's hot in summer here in the Hills and cold in the winter. And our vision is by utilizing the existing pavilion to build and operate a community center to serve a wide range of social, recreational, and civic needs of Hills residents. Now, we put the business case for this is increased property values and greater neighborhood attractiveness to potential home buyers. It also would offer improved service offerings to Hills residents and provide all-season indoor comfort with the flexibility to open the garage doors to enjoy nice weather, music at the pavilion, and so on. In regards to capital and operational funding, in the materials that support this proposal, we provided some possible solutions to fund the project. And in regards to the use profile, we see the heart of the Hills Community Center as a complement to the Hills Country Club, not a competitor, offering a solution for do-it-yourself events. It provides an alternative solution to at-home events, so you don't have to spend time getting your house guest ready. And it provides a solution for events that are simply bigger than what your house can accommodate. As an example, my husband likes to host his golf buddies over for dinner, and it's usually about 30 people, and that's very difficult in our house. We just don't have that kind of space. So with that, I can try and answer any questions that you may have, or we can pass it over to Casey and Rachel, who have a video and some renderings to show.
Yeah, okay. So now we're here, sorry. Well, thank you for the invite. Rich and I moved here about a year ago, a little less than a year ago. We have a little architecture practice in Lakeway, so we volunteered once we met the Garys at the spring event.
Right.
Summer event, sorry.
Last fall event.
Fall event, yeah, well, I'm just going.
It
So,
would have been nice, it was fun.
yeah, I know, they attract us with the free beer sign, so, no, but they were looking for some help, so we fit right up our alley, actually. So we volunteered some drafting time, some video time with the team. Do you have a video to pull up that Gary sent earlier on YouTube?
No,
No?
he didn't send it to me.
Uh-oh. Can we pull it up really quick? It's really easy to access.
Okay.
We put it on YouTube, it's easier.
Well, let's see.
Let's go to MOTIF. Architects. Should pop right up. Oops, CH, sorry. ET, ECT. There you go.
Yeah?
Yep.
Go.
Yeah, just click on this one. And then if you scroll to here, sorry, I'm reaching over.
It's okay.
One more. There it is. Okay. So USB we did on YouTube.
If you click the share, are you on that computer? Oh, it's on a
No.
different computer.
Yeah,
Uh-oh.
Yeah,
we're not
not the same as there.
saying,
Okay. Sorry.
No, I should have paid attention.
MOTIA. On that. Oh, no, click out of this. Right there. Maybe I can drive real quick.
Yeah.
Sorry about
And
that.
then I'll connect it.
We're on this computer here?
Yes.
Okay, so. There it is. All right.
All right, let me share screen real quick.
Oh, okay.
Can't see anything.
yeah,
See.
yeah, there we go.
Then I'll do one more project. Go to the little weird.
Thank you, sir.
So what we're proposing here is just to take a small portion of it, utilize the existing structure, look at exterior type materials for the interior to keep maintenance down to minimal. And really just looking at filling in the bays with garage doors that are operable. They can be manual or motor or whatever. And just really kind of keep it utilitarian, simple, and really pretty. As far as the kitchen goes, we were really just looking at a place for serving, not prepping or cooking. There's some prohibition code on that, so just trying to keep it simple.
Great, yeah. Nice.
When we do have a set of drawings too, of course, we figure the easiest is a little easier to watch. And that's available for anybody that wants to watch it afterward. We just record it.
You have any questions?
Yes, and just to clarify what I saw, it looked like you were proposing closing and closing part of the current pavilion and leaving part of it open. Is that right?
Yeah, the idea is that we're not taking away, we're adding to the pavilion. So we visited often. I'm still sweating from my morning run. Sorry. I run by it every morning, but yeah, we were just gonna, depending on the budget too, right? So we can either take 2 bays or 3 bays, leave 2 that are public, which is kind of like a backyard, if you will, if we did outdoor music, or if the facility's locked and it rains and soccer match going on, right? We still want to have that area for the folks to utilize it. So yeah, and plus it cuts back on air conditioning costs, material costs, labor, et cetera. So that's
once you open the garage doors, it's basically one big space again. So
yeah,
it has both sides to that.
exactly. Yeah. And Gary's, both Gary's, that's
Yeah.
yeah, they pretty much brought their vision to us, and that's what we just brought to you guys. So I know it's their baby, if you will. And I'm looking at my baby right here. Sorry.
Thanks. Yeah, they did a great job on this, and
Yeah, thank you.
when this project, we first found out about it, Gary, I talked to him, said, really, we need to have this come through the park commission, because it's a park project, and the village council is really not going to adopt something that the park commission doesn't really support and buy into. Think it's something that should be a baby for the future of the park. I've been the park commissioner and on the park commission off and on for 10 years, starting with Eric Goblin, as you all remember. And they wrote me in again when Greg Wood brought me back. So in fact, right now we have probably one of the strongest, most active park commission with the 11 members. It's very nice working with everybody. So it's been enjoyable. And so, when the project was brought to us, we said, let's look at it. Let's see where the vision could be. We knew it would be a big project, capital, much like the walkway around the neighborhood. And so it's something we had to plan and plan carefully for and think about how it would go about. But there's times, you know, that you need meeting places. Like, you know, I've asked for a meeting place at Flint Park before, you know, that little room with the table when you first walk in. And I was just having a little meeting with some Rotarians and said, no, we have to charge you for it. You got to reserve that. Oh, really? And I'm a member here and everything, you know, and so there's just things it would provide another avenue for our residents to have a meeting space, not really in conflict with the club, but things that we as residents, you know, should use. And you know, it's getting hotter here in the summers. I mean, it really is. And so pretty much, you know, it's hard to even use that facility in those times and in the cold in the winter. So this was an idea to make an all-weather type of facility down the road, try to find a way that it's functional. That's where the garage doors came up. They took our suggestions and made that so it could be all-weather, open up, because people like an open pavilion too. Yeah. So came about that way, and we thought it was just something that would enhance our community. I was over at the park the other day. There's photographers walking around taking pictures of the park, and I thought it was somebody from our commission doing something. But no, it was just a realtor that hired a photographer to take pictures of the park to put on their Zillow or whatever they're at to sell their home. So obviously people think that park is a very integral part of this, you know, in this neighborhood living in the hills. So it's a great asset we have. We need to protect it. We upgraded recently with all the work that was done right there a couple of years ago. So we just want to find ways to keep improving it, making it a viable space for our residents. And of course, got to be well controlled, but get it into the planning process. If the council would adopt and agree that, you know, this is a good direction to go, then think about how we can, you know, put some engineering costs to see what would the cost be, and down the road, how would it get funded, much like, you know, the walkway. So it's not something that has to happen overnight. But I think it's a good vision for our community, and I think it'd be welcomed by all the homeowners for various reasons, kiddie parties and things like that. So that's why I wanted to, I'm glad to meet here today and presented the village council, and the park commission we have supports this, and that's we asked them to take a vote on it that we want to present, and they did. And so that's why we're here going forward, and hopefully we'll just keep moving that direction. You know, I think it's something we need to consider and see if we can find the funds down the road and plan for it. We met with Marty and Matthew. We talked about how to do this right. And I think this is the right way to do it and get buy-in with everybody in our community. So that's really all I had. Unless you have any questions for us.
I just want to say I appreciate all the dedication and passion that's gone into this project. I know it's been discussed many times before, and that, you know, that passion has not wavered.
Yeah. And you know, there's how many more projects is there to do in the hill?
Yeah.
I mean, the walkway's made, the bridge is done. What are we going to do? You know, and in fact, I found,
Yeah,
you know,
lots of ideas.
well, I mean, there's a lot of ideas, but you can see there's a little limited to what can be done in this community after a while. And I think I finally have come up with an idea for the shade out front. Yeah, have all of you ever been to Angels?
Yep.
Well, they have these canopies out on top. And so our condition, we're working on putting together a little canopy project that can be out there by the stage where people don't sit, because everybody's out there on the sides. Well, we come up, Marty's giving me some ideas, put some poles up that can be removable, and then take up for an event, take down for an event, and put some canopies up that would provide shade for some of our events and our music events and things that we have there, which would be very low cost for that element of shade. So anyhow, that's all we have. And we want to thank you all for listening, and good luck, continued good luck.
Yeah.
Thanks, Gary. Yeah, no, thank you everyone for the thoughtful presentation.
Sure. And thank you, Casey.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
For all the work you've done and put into it.
Visual helps.
yeah, we just like the opportunity to connect with everybody. So
We love listening here.
Sorry.
we do, yeah, we're running.
Yeah, thanks for the for
Yeah.
jumping in.
Fun doing it, so.
Yes.
So my question was, Gary, have you or anybody else done any kind of preliminary analysis at all of what either the capital expense and the ongoing maintenance costs would be for the design that Casey and Brandon came up with?
There's been some little bit, I think at this point, we thought we have to have some engineering costs. Take a look at this as a project.
Yeah.
And come up and that takes some funds to appropriate for that, to give you some realistic figures.
Right.
So,
I just haven't made it.
I don't think we have blue sky yet, but because there's different options, this is the first, this was kind of a first option. If the council decide this is a way to go, there may be different variations, scaled down versions of it that would become a viable project.
Sure there would. I just wondered if anybody has done anything at all to this point.
Yeah, that's a great question. Rachel's, so she has a project happening in Horseshoe Bay that's very similar. I'm sorry, Marble Falls Pavilion, and there's a lot of unknown costs. We don't really know the condition of the pavilion without doing some investigative research. So the roof, I think is 20 years old about. Looks like there was some damage on it from a tree at some point, just from what I can see from drone shots. So that would have to be investigated, just the feasibility of the structure. We also work with third-party engineers, and we've reached out for some proposals on that, and that would be based on our drawings and status of the building. So that would be more or less our involvement. The next step is to coordinate a third-party reviewer, and these are people that do this every single day, national data, and give us a benchmark, and then we can adjust. If it's within the budget or without or under, then we adapt. And that's really important with civic type projects too, to make sure.
Yeah, we're not establishing a capital planning budget
Exactly.
at this meeting.
Right.
Spitballing ideas.
Yeah.
It may be that when we get around to doing capital budgeting for the next fiscal year, this would be something we can take up then.
Sure.
And maybe figure out, well, how much would we have to spend at least to get to the preliminary estimate point of view.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's it.
Our drawings this can be done next week. We have a pretty detailed set of documents already, so. Yeah, so, no, that's.
You're ready when and if.
Yeah. Thank you guys. I hope to see you around too.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
All right.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
And so like I was saying, you can,
Yeah, so I actually did have another idea I forgot about. I would like a tennis court installed at our park or a sand pit. I'm not sure if you've ever been to the Children's Alliance Garden or the Lakeway Park where the volleyball pits are, whatever, volleyball courts. But we have so much fun over there playing in sand. And as far as the tennis courts go, you have to be a tennis member to book a court at World of Tennis, which I am, but a lot of residents are not. And so we have to, run around to all these different courts. A lot of them are private courts, or they're, have a whole bunch of people there, so no one can play tennis. And the Lakeway ones have transformed their tennis courts into pickleball courts. And so there's just nowhere for people to play tennis in the hills unless they're World of Tennis members. So just an idea. But I really like the pavilion idea. So that's it. So, but I would like to get it. Wish you.
thank you.
That's it. Okay, thank you.
You're a tennis player yourself, so it sounds like,
I
right?
know.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
And you play at World of Tennis?
I do.
Yeah.
But I would like to play in my neighborhood. I want my daughter to take lessons, but that's okay. Just think
Yeah,
about it.
thank you.
Thank
See
you.
y'all.
Thanks.
Thank
Thank you.
Moving on to online. Tom, do you have any public comment on any thoughts, ideas, whether it's relevant to the capital planning or otherwise?
No, not at this time. Thank you.
Tom, if you're speaking, you might be on mute.
It's not showing mute on my side. Can you guys
Yeah, it
hear
looks
me?
like he's speaking, but we can't hear it.
Yeah, we can't hear it.
Not hearing anything. Is there a volume?
I think our
Yeah.
volume is on.
I think I'm muted. Did they mute it? down at the.
Bottom right, by the time.
By the time.
Yeah, go first.
Oh, yeah, down at the pool,
Right, right,
task
right.
bar.
Bottom right.
All the way
Right.
there.
Bottom right.
Right.
Right,
Keep going, keep going.
yeah.
There we go. Let's see if that.
Tough.
Yeah, I don't know how it ended up.
Yeah.
All right. Apologies, Tom.
Try it now.
Yeah, can you guys hear me?
Oh, perfect. Thank you.
All right, man. I had some really solid ideas I was walking through, and
I'm sure that's great.
no comments. I just wanted to listen in
Okay.
to get the feedback from the community. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, thank you. Karthik?
Hey, good morning, everyone. Thank you for
Good
holding
morning.
this workshop and giving residents the chance to share their thoughts on the future of our village. Over the past week, I've had a few conversations with neighbors, and I wanted to bring some of those perspectives into today's discussion because I think they reflect a lot of what people are quietly thinking about. One concern that came up was the sharp turn at the end of Tiburon. It's a tight curve with limited visibility, and several folks mentioned it feels unsafe, especially in the evenings and nights. Even small fixes like lane markings or reflective guides could go a long way to improving that spot. Another recurring topic was the walkway on club estates. Right now, that road handles a lot contractor traffic, clubhouse visits, and residents just out for a walk. Without a proper sidewalk, it's becoming a safety concern. People see what's been done on Hills Drive and are asking, can we do the same here? And finally, something a little lighter but still meaningful, park improvements. A few residents mentioned how nice it would be to add a pickleball court or a tennis court. It's a growing sport. It brings people together, and it doesn't take much space. It's a simple way to encourage activity and community. I know these are always there is always trade-offs when it comes to capital planning, but these ideas are grounded in everyday experiences. I hope they're helpful as you shape the path forward. Thanks again for the opportunity to be here.
Thanks, Karthik. I said Tom's on with regard to the lane markings. Perhaps we can all, attend a POA meeting and discuss any road conditions / issues with the POA or the road committee. I think that they're pretty well positioned to address those better than we would. And then the walking path, I did see the walking path comment on Engage, and I will note, and I've had actually a discussion with the club about this. The walking path is intentionally not placed along club estates where I think the gentleman who posted is requesting it be done, which is right in front of those houses. It actually carries behind the condos and their signs marking. It carries behind those condos on Trophy, and carries along, because if it's along club estates where the gentleman is requesting it, it's directly adjacent to the driving range. And if you drive by there's about 50 balls at any given time, and it's pretty dangerous. So I believe that the prior council, when it was originally contemplated the walking path, intentionally avoided that area for reliability reasons. So I think perhaps to the point about the walking path may be a better opportunity to message the community where the walking path as currently exists continues and goes through, because there's signs there. I agree that it maybe perhaps people miss those signs for the walking path, and I think that's an opportunity for messaging and education. So I appreciate each of those comments, Karthik.
To that, I'll add the walking loop. The walking trail that we have makes a complete loop. It's 3.44 miles.
Perfect. I think before we really start kicking off our workshop here, just wanted to make, I guess, a couple quick comments. And I'd like to say a few words and just say, I think it's a great honor to help steward the resources entrusted to us by the residents. Today's capital improvement workshop is an important step in ensuring that we're not only maintaining what we've built, but doing so in ways that strengthens the health, safety, and well-being for our entire community. And it's important to remember that every dollar we spend today represents the hard work of our residents. These funds come from families and individuals who choose to live here, raise their children here, and invest their lives in the community. That's why I must treat every expenditure with care and scrutiny. And when we plan wisely, maintain our existing assets, and invest in thoughtful improvements, we position ourselves not just to meet today's needs, but to safeguard our financial health for the years to come. I see it as our goal is to continue delivering the highest level of service while keeping our tax rate low. If we stay disciplined in our planning and clear on our priorities, there may be opportunities in the future to reduce the burden on our residents, but that starts with making sound, measured decisions today. So I'd like to thank the residents who submitted ideas and feedback ahead of these meetings, as well as everybody who gave comment now. Your engagement and insight are part of what makes this community so special. So let's use this time together to contemplate and evaluate a responsible, community-minded, and forward-looking perspective. So thanks for the work of each of you. I don't know if anybody else has anything to say.
Well said.
All right. Yes, sir.
Yeah, for clarification, how do you see this meeting kind of rolling out? What do you see at the end of it?
So I think the way I was contemplating it, and again, it's a workshop and we can take this any direction we want. I was thinking we kind of review just in buckets, like our current assets that we have. What do we each contemplate is needed for those current assets, either improvements or maintenance? Next would be, are there major health, safety, wellness type projects that we need to consider or should be considering and evaluating? And then third would be kind of the new project ideas, such as the pavilion. We can kind of discuss our thoughts on that stuff, tennis courts, a bunch of this, mostly a lot of the stuff that the residents have submitted. And I think your nicely laid out capital planning worksheet is incredibly helpful, I think, as we could kind of, and actually really does do a good job of laying this out. We kind of go through these. We can go through these as is, like as is laid out here, which I think is a helpful bucketing.
Yeah.
And we can kind of just be like, okay, these are priorities. And I think that if they each match, we kind of discuss as they each hit those three buckets. And then I think probably at the end, what I would like to come out is just kind of a clear vision for what we all think the path should be forward and as well as next steps. But I think the way the capital planning is laid out now, we have $400K in our capital budget. There's $100,000. That includes the $100,000 for the intersection light that we've allocated. There's also $35,000 for the Texas Native Garden in the park that we have not completed yet. So those are kind of the in process projects. And then speaking with Rick, who can be here today for a conflict, the way we should be thinking about it is for the capital improvement, capital budgeting fund each year. So we have the 265, call it, left. And over the next, each year for the next however many years, we probably think about it as about $120,000 in the capital improvement budget each year. So it's whether it be, you could think about, 120 next year, then the 120 the year after, or you could be like, okay, well, in year two, if there was a big project, it could be 240. And then the next year, if you want to just have one main project, just think about how it would roll, would be like 360, assuming we didn't do anything for the prior years. So that's how I would think about the general budget. Of course, there is the reserve that we have, and we've got a large reserve. So if there was major stuff that we all wanted to think through, we could contemplate allocating a portion of that outside of whatever our normal capital planning budget would be. There's also the trade-offs then between how we want to think, and this is just a larger, more nuanced discussion about how we kind of envision the future with resource planning, taxes, and everything else that really wouldn't be a discussion for now, but that's further trade-off. So I was kind of thinking, hey, we've got 265 plus 120 rolling each year, unless there's something we all want to discuss, and that would be a larger project. And again, much of the stuff we don't have dollar figures yet. To your point about the pavilion, we don't know enough to really make any decision. It's not really the right time, obviously, to make that decision. But I think conceptually, I think that's kind of the framework that I was thinking about.
I know that when we go through, this is like a step, to me, it's associated to our budgeting process. This information will be in the budget, and it is something that will be a piece for the next 5 years that will continue to be built upon by each consecutive council. So it's this current council's suggestive concepts for those future budget lines to be discussed and talked about in the budgeting process. I see today us kind of putting together the general capital list as done in years before, kind of laid out for the next 5 years in a manner that we don't have to necessarily talk about the dollar figures, but at least just the general concepts and goals of this council for the next 5 years for the city. With that, I'll add that I did distribute to council some information about our tax rate history. Thank Mayor for saying that maybe not the current time to discuss our tax rate, but I think it is imperative that we kind of keep this in mind because yes, we do have reserves to spend, but I would like my personal opinion is that we have an opportunity to continue to be conservative and be able to potentially continue to massage our tax rates down. The history of that, we had 2 increases in our taxes since the 2011 year, which is when I just started the tracking of it. But between 2014 and 2015, there was an increase in our tax rate. And I discovered that it's not due to necessarily personnel. It was due to us, the city, absorbing some of the POA's maintenance and operations. I don't know exactly the detailed items, but there were some transfers over during that time period. So we took on those costs. And then from 17 to 18, that is obvious when the city took out the loan for the walking trail, which you'll see on the chart doesn't really start being categorized correctly until 2021. But that is that increase, and that's why it kind of, you could almost average it out along the same pathway. But I do feel like we have an opportunity to continue to reduce our tax rate if we are conservative in our approach to capital expenditures and maintaining a healthy reserve. I think Singleton and Clark recommends a 6-month operating balance in our reserve just for precautionary purposes.
Which would be about $500,000.
Which would be about half, yeah. So
that makes sense. Thanks. And I think we also roll off our debt in 2028. So that's another
160.
Yeah. So that'll
every year.
That'll free up that.
And what's the reserve balance now?
1.3.
Which we wouldn't have an INF tax rate then. We'd have to remove that. So that would naturally decrease our tax rate.
Oh yeah,
So
that's this line. So
oh yeah, right here.
the total, yeah, we would drop that.
Yeah, so that's
just
$2 cents. Yeah, so it would go down. Okay.
So some pieces to consider. But I'm excited to talk about some of these wonderful ideas and concepts, both that have been contributed by this council, and I'm sure there's some that council hasn't presented that are worth discussing.
I'd like to thank the council and particularly you, Sarah, and you, Mayor, for setting up this meeting, because this to me was sort of the piece of the budgeting process last year that I was kind of missing, was this preliminary discussion about what really are we doing in terms of a longer term capital strategy. Some of them are doing this.
First time I'm participating in this as well. So I guess actually the only one that may have participated in this in the past was Sarah. So this is new for all of us. I mean, yeah, I think it's kind of, like I said, like free form. I don't know if anybody has a general comments on anything or specific ideas, but go ahead.
Let me start with Lemons Crossing entrance, because that's a definite. We've been reserving $100,000 for the signed contract that we have between us and Lakeway and the developer. So we know that we will have to continue to have that reserves. And just roll that into the next year's capital.
Yeah, I mean, it's really not, to my way of thinking, a capital expense anyway. It's really just a contractual obligation that the city has. So I'm not sure where we have it in the budget, to tell you the truth.
We've put it in capital.
Yeah, it is in there.
It's kind of just as like a holding.
And it's been rolled forward for at least 1 year, maybe 2.
Oh,
Yeah, I think it's
three. Going on 3 years now. We haven't heard of any changes in that. I know that there were some logistical issues with the turn lanes and potential costs there. But as of right now, we don't know if any of those things.
Yeah, the last update I had was end of 2025 for them to complete that road and get a traffic light installed. I mean, they've been making progress. It just doesn't look like I'm still skeptical. And then Tom Harrelson reached out recently, and we're going to re-kick back up our intersection committee, really to make sure that that's going in the right direction. Because obviously it's going to be a big partnership between, and primarily driven by Tom and the POA team, as well as us and then the MUD, and just make sure we're all coordinated. There's still a lot of considerations and information that needs to go, but there was, and I don't know if it'll happen or not, but there was even the opportunity that Lakeway had mentioned that we may not even need to pay the $100,000, depending on how the developer is going to finance it and tax abatement and stuff of that nature. So I will update the community as soon as we hear anything else on that.
What rights do we have as part of the $100,000 commitment?
We have in exchange for the $100,000, we had the right to approve the intersection design. That's essentially what we bought. And we have not taken formal action as a city council to approve that design. Lakeway Council's already approved the design, and my understanding was that they've not indicated any willingness to change the design, kind of no matter what we think.
Okay.
So I think for us, it's almost a binary choice, up or down. Are we going to approve the design or not? I will say the funding under that agreement is not to fund any capital improvements to our side of that intersection. It's to defray the developer's cost for installing the light in the intersection and changing anything on the other side of the intersection. And our $100,000 obligation is to reimburse them for a portion of their costs for that work. So none of that money, none of that $100,000 under the agreement anyway, is intended to flow to the POA. If we wanted to revamp that, presumably we could talk to the other contracting parties who are Lakeway and the developer.
Does their work require our approval?
No.
Okay. Is their work required?
Yeah.
We don't, the city doesn't have any work to do on that.
But we can't reject
Yes. What happens if we reject? Nothing.
What happens
though?
In all practicality, what happens if we reject the plan is they build it anyways and just keep us out of the room. Really, it's $100,000 for us to approve the light to be in the room and make sure that we can at least direct as much as we can. Again, Tom and Sarah and I had meetings with Lakeway and the developer, and they are adamant that the design is the design. The one area that we would be able to make any changes would be us getting approval from Lakeway out of our pocket to change anything on that Lomans Crossing area as it is. They said, hey, you can pay to change the intersection. We're not paying or investing any additional money into changing the intersection. So if we want a turn lane, they would contemplate allowing us to install a turn lane.
And that would be a turn lane into?
It's for example, it's really anything. So I think the best move that we have is, again, just to coordinate with the POA, and the MUD has offered their expertise and resource to help guide whatever we can from the ingress and egress of the neighborhood. And then if there's other stuff we want to discuss, we can do it through our committee and discuss directly with the developer and Lakeway. But they've been open. We've had ongoing discussions, and they've been constructive in terms of letting us express our perspectives. whether they change the intersection is a different story.
I thought there was a good submission from Ms. Shelton about the intersection, potentially considering 3 exit lanes. So I think that kind of made sense when we think about what's going to happen there, because there's going to be a lot more traffic on that side of the neighborhood.
I guess my question is, should we plan on adding an additional capital line to help support some of these changes? Because
Yeah, I think we should.
that's the topic for today.
Yeah, I think we probably should allow some budgeting in there. It's really going to depend on our partnership with the POA
Okay.
and how we want to approach everything and what needs to get done. I think that if everybody, and I don't think we even need a figure because we don't know, but I think if everybody is supportive of supporting the POA and their reformatting of the intersection and egress and ingress, then I think that we just continue our discussions with them. Because I don't think we have enough information now to even decide whether, hey, 50 grand, 100 grand,
No.
200 grand,
Yeah.
10 grand,
No
hey,
clue.
do we
drainage,
there's
there's
yeah.
everything.
So I think that we don't have enough discussion, but in an ideal world, it'd be like, yeah, 3 entry lanes and 3 exit lanes.
There's 100 already committed and there isn't like a right of refusal or rejection. It's just, here's $100,000 to approve. I think we use that $100,000 to lean into making sure that
the intersection is done.
It's done correctly rather than just try to save it.
Yeah. So we're committed to that.
Yeah.
But
Sorry, go ahead.
I kind of like Marty's approach, which if I could paraphrase, it sounded like you were thinking maybe let's just take a step back and think about an entire redesign of that Loveman's crossing gate area to make it aesthetically more attractive as well as more functional, given kind of the future of that intersection. If that's a decent paraphrase, I'm all in on that.
Yeah, totally. Well, I think
great idea.
In addition to, your submission of the wall, I don't think there's anything that we can do pound for pound that will have as great of an impact on our home values as redoing that whole front entrance, that front curb appeal when somebody pulls up. That's a big factor. And if you have traffic congestion, some realtor kind of driving a potential homeowner through, they could deter somebody from buying it.
Yeah. I think, sorry, go ahead.
I'll just make a statement that I'm sure everyone has come to understand, whether it's our tax dollars or our POA dollars, there's still all of our interior resident dollars.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Well, I think it should be, So I agree. Like Marty was mentioning Falcon Head. Like Falcon Head's got a pretty nice entrance. So I think that we should maybe, as part of the intersection committee, discuss with Tom and team just how we can partner to achieve that vision. And again, I don't want to step like they could be having. I don't want to step on Tom and POA's toes, but I think it's in the spirit of partnership we can continue that discussion.
I think that
directly with them.
It's important, but we also have to keep in mind that Lakeway owns
the
whole section.
Grass outside
right
the
away.
gate.
Yeah, so they might also need to come to the table. Or
That's true. That's a good point.
Some type of.
It sounds like a takeaway from this is we need the POA and then get their perspective, and then we discuss and just bring this up to Joseph Mullis of Lakeway as well.
So is the limit of our land the wall?
Yeah.
It doesn't go beyond the wall into the grass.
That is correct.
The POA owns just like a little cutout, like in that street section.
On Windgreen Loop.
Yeah, like the extension of the POA. So they own more.
But I think the way Marty's framed it out, which I think is the correct way to look at it, there's enough public purpose for us to use city funds to support the kind of the redevelopment of that POA owned land.
Yeah, you almost, I think, need like an exploratory committee with maybe architects too, to just see what's possible in that limited space.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think it's part of, I agree with you 100%. And I think that as part of just the intersection committee and partnership, we should talk to the POA and continue that. And from our side, Lee was gracious enough to take on a lot of the work. And then Sarah, I assume, do you guys still want to be heavily, I assume you want to be heavily involved, and we can also bring in Marty's for his development expertise, if you would like to contribute.
Yeah.
We
Perfect.
would not all be able to meet at the same
No.
time though.
No.
Okay, got it.
Almost done.
We'd have different workflows,
And yes, we can change,
but I think so. I think that'd be a good idea. So I think on our list is follow up with Tom Harrelson.
And let me see, just to help me remember this, when will we have to be actually putting together a preliminary budget for the next fiscal year that would include some number if we wanted to put a number into the budget?
Through the summer. So
Okay.
September 30 would be the end of the.
Yeah, gotta
fiscal
just
year,
have it done
so,
by then, so, okay.
yeah, probably
So
through June.
July, okay.
Angie, you know, an approval, like our submit to the state? What is that date?
I believe it would be in, September.
Okay.
That we have to have all the numbers in.
So
So the POA board's gonna meet tonight at 6 o'clock, right? And I'm sure Tom will bring to their attention this part of our discussion.
Yeah.
And if not, I can mention, be in attendance. Just let them know we'd be looking forward to working with them on the Lowndes Crossing entrance.
okay, I think we've all come to the consensus. I'm just gonna start documenting notes
Do it.
of, we've all come to the consensus that the Lemons, both the traffic light can be a capital item as well as potential enhancement project. All of that.
Wherever you want to put the traffic light contract, I don't see it as a capital expense, but if you want to hold it in there, I don't care, but
It's an obligation, but I do think we don't really have a right, and it's an approval that doesn't have a veto power.
well,
Well,
we
that's-
have an obligation to reimburse the developer for some part of their expenses in doing their development of the traffic light in the intersection.
If we approve that point,
Unless we don't approve it, would be the way I'd look at it.
but then they'll do it anyways. So we can't stop the construction.
No.
Whatever.
Not in all practicality.
Now, we looked at whether the right to approve would include the right to sort of stop the project if we didn't approve, and kind of concluded it doesn't extend that far.
It connects to Lakeway land anyway, right? In front of our. Yeah, so they're just connecting it to their own property.
It's
Yeah,
basically
exactly.
all Lakewood land, none of it's ours.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I just agree with looking at making sure that that's an aesthetically pleasing intersection, and the money's, in my opinion, well spent to protect the flow in and out of the neighborhood.
Mhm.
Anyway,
And Tom is 100% of mine.
Okay. Thank you, Tom.
Yeah.
I mean, we should also, so Sarah, I think since we're talking about the entrance, you want to also mention your wall.
Yeah, so I think I'm just gonna, I'm gonna lump it into, loved it, I'm kidding. I would love to just include it in the entire enhancement project. I think that would be a comprehensive project looping together. So yes, my proposal is to replace the current fence crate with a solid, as tall as can be, maybe 8-foot limestone wall that would prevent noise pollution, light pollution, et cetera, from the new development across the way. Also enhance the general entry of the community.
Yeah, I totally agree. I'm also curious about this grass because, like, I know that a lot of kids walk over there for school
Yes.
and it's just grass. Is there, no, I think there's electric lines potentially that run on some of the grassland. It's kind of hard to tell from the map, but is there a way for us to maybe try to work with Lakeway to add trees to that grass field? Or because if you have a house that backed up, to Lomans, you're about to see potentially large parking garages and light, and to your point, noise. And it's like, I don't know if that's a possibility.
Give me some like nice whatever kind of trees, like all literally like across aligned with the wall,
In front of the wall?
Yeah.
Yeah, in front of the wall.
but just like all the way along it, or
Yeah, because, well, I mean, it may be in areas, but
Like some big oaks or something.
yeah, I'm just thinking, this is just grass and are we watering that?
We do.
Yeah.
We pay for the irrigation and maintenance of it, even though it is Lakeway's property.
Yes, to me, that's kind of interesting. I mean, that's a lot of water to keep that grass. So I would look at that whole area in front of the wall too, as part of this. And because these trees right here are pretty nice that are down here and they add a nice barrier to those residents. But I think if you look up here by the intersection and then toward the school, it's just a field kind of.
Yeah.
I see the nice one.
For the enhancement.
Like,
okay. So I think for our general cumulative
it's just grass.
aesthetic / functionality, so we'll follow up with Tom and the POA. And we should probably start figuring out, to your point, costs for the wall.
Mhm, mhm.
If
Yeah.
everybody kind of thinks that's a good next step on that is a wall, which I agree, because that fencecrete is expensive, one, to maintain, and then doesn't look great and doesn't block sound. And I don't even know how long the useful life of that wall is.
Well, I think as Lakeway is developing their town square,
Yeah.
I think it's be really cool that if you're leaving their town square and you see the hills, you see something like beautiful and elegant and,
Yeah, such a nice design aesthetic in my experience. Do you have a kind of a vision for what that wall would look like?
I was just thinking of a nice limestone. I think it coordinates with a lot of the exteriors of the homes along that way, which is like the white limestone, solid, very
Tall though.
very tall. Yeah,
It's all
nothing too,
Yeah.
just, or anything unusual. Driving through, you do see we already have the limestone pillars, and they're just holding the fence gate. So I don't know if it would be repurposing or just total demo and redo, but.
Would you be open to something other than just a straight kind of wall, an 8-foot wall of limestone?
I mean, if it's not our property, so we'd have to figure out the property line stuff.
Oh, we don't own the wall?
We own the wall, but it's the
That's fine.
property line of a homeowner and in the city of Lakeway.
Yeah.
So it would be nice if it had some architectural niceties to it, but maybe it's landscaping that.
Yeah, maybe so.
Yeah, perhaps that's part of the $100,000 commitment is we lean into being able to enhance the Lakeway land by a wall. Because if that's Lakeway's land,
Yeah, I think, sorry.
Okay, but the developer is the one who's entitled to the $100,000, not us or the POA or Lakeway. Or reimburse the cost of the intersection. Now, if you want to just say we're not going to approve the design, so we're backing out of the agreement.
I'm still struggling what we get out of the approval or not. Like
We've all struggled there, so.
Yeah. That was pre our time. But I think Lakeway would be, based on my discussions, Lakeway, I think would be open to us.
Well, we're taking care of it anyway.
Well, yeah, we're taking care of it anyway. And when you got down the path of doing a formal agreement, which I stepped away from the formal agreement because it didn't provide us protections to keep them from doing anything to it, which is I kind of think where you would go on that, but they're definitely open. One, the current way it works now is we maintain it, we do what we want. They try to give us notice and minimize whatever, and we can basically do what we want to it. So I think they would be open to us installing permanent landscaping.
Yeah.
I don't.
Yeah, they've got some underground lines going through there. I think we just need to avoid those.
Exactly. And we obviously work together with them, but I like those ideas. So if we were to not be required to pay the $100,000 because the developer was working with Lakeway to get a PUD and agreement, so that would basically defray their tax cost, then we would not necessarily have to pay the $100,000 because that would be
repurposed.
That's where I'm going with that. It's in all of our interests to make sure that
that's also best case scenario, but that's what I hope happens.
But it would be good for the developer, it'd be good for Lakeway, and it's obviously good for us to make sure that area by the wall is maintained nice, aesthetically pleasing.
I agree. It should work for their development too, should it?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, so I think we have next steps on figuring out our beautiful new wall, our big beautiful wall.
May I ask that we go to streets next?
Absolutely.
I'll just read some of those ideas that were shared with council. Were paving the pedestrian walkway on Club Estates, radar speed signs, paint the crosswalk from park entrance to Drifting Wind, and repave Tiburon Drive.
The first one was my idea, and it sounds like that's a non-starter.
Because of the driving range.
Yeah, to complete the pedestrian walkway on the stretch between the driveway that cuts up to the pavilion and the club. Because the walkway, current walkway actually doesn't get you to the club. That's the issue.
Oh, you're just talking to the club.
Right.
That would be behind the driving range, so wouldn't be out of the question.
Well,
But there is waterway.
So I think what's interesting is the walkway at Tournament Way goes up on the far side from the club of the driving range. In the next two kind of median blocks, I'm going to show you here. Like so that walkway goes through Club Estates and then it goes up, right? But there isn't a walkway but there isn't a walkway then that would take you from, I understand it's a loop, but
There's a huge drainage.
So, yeah, I don't know if we're limited here, but also this is open right here and you just walk across.
But behind
back
the
there,
driving
yeah.
range, I see.
I mean, it depends on if we want to spend the money to do this and have it here, but that goes to somebody's.
That goes to the club.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on if we want, I don't know, I'm indifferent, but the way that I do not, so I didn't know where you were talking about it first, but I see you're saying from here to the clubhouse specifically. Because
No,
our
I
path
think
goes up
he's-
here, because
he's
we're not
talking
doing,
about
yeah, because I'm not for,
Yeah.
and we can all discuss it. I mean, everybody else's vote counts as much as mine. I do not like the idea. If people want to walk there, they can do it. I don't want to put a walking path there because I can't imagine how many balls I've hit in that area too.
Liability.
And that's why it goes back here, because more balls end up over here. And there's a lot. If you go drive there right now, there's not. And then you're putting a path, and then you put a walking path there, you're gonna add an extra 20 feet of bounce to it.
If that's true, and I agree with you, there's a danger there. Maybe the club could put, some sort of net or something on their side, but the reality is a lot of people already do walk there.
Well,
and so it's creating a trail.
Yeah.
And to me, that trail is unsightly.
That's the club property. Actually that whole section of club property looks terrible right now because of all the growth. That's a good conversation to have with the club. I currently consider the walking trail a complete loop. I think the issue that we have with the complete loop is now with the new development coming across the street, we have no way from walking from our loop to connect to Loman's.
Or to the club,
Or
because the loop doesn't connect to the club.
Well, I think so this is a discussion whether we think it would be financial. If you just theoretically, if you wanted to do it, to your point, it would go from here through to just to the club. But I mean, already what exists is if you do this walking path right back here, I mean, there's golf cart path and you can see there's a crosswalk right here.
Yeah.
And you just connect this because that walking path is technically back behind here and goes behind what they used to call the Academy of Golf. Right behind Lee's house, so he's intimately familiar. I don't know if it's worth tax dollar spending to change this section to go right through here versus just having people, back to Marty's point, where people always walk on the private property anyways. I don't see a difference between that and then somebody just walking through this open spot right here and doing this crosswalk to get to the club. I see your.
We could add signage like country club this way, signage.
Yeah, here's the sort of the path that people have kind of beat into this section of Club Estates that I think Marty was mentioning.
I agree.
Is there city land there?
I think they would need to.
Well, I'm wondering, can we do, if we help subsidize it for them a little bit?
So like
a public-private kind of partnership.
But what would you want to, what do you suggest?
To match our trail, our walking trail.
Along that side of the driving range?
Yes.
Well, that's the stuff, that's what I was.
where that trail is now.
If people. I mean, my perspective, what I would be worried about
You don't want people walking there.
I ideally do not want people walking there, but that's my perspective.
I would share that perspective, and we have I said it, we have an enclosed loop already.
Yeah. Does adding more walking trail create a sidewalk? And we can't have a sidewalk, right?
Anything we design will not be sidewalk categorized
Uh-huh.
unless we do it, then we have to.
Is it because it's a loop? It's not a sidewalk, or is it because
It's
of the way
because
it's
of
designed?
the elevations and the.
Got it, it's not
slopes
raised or
and
anything.
everything.
I do agree it's ugly.
So
I do agree it's ugly. And I do agree that whenever I would, if I were to go jogging, my nearest path would be there, but I don't know, I couldn't, in my mind, I'm not comfortable with, because I mean, if you go by, I looked today when I was driving over here just to see how many balls are out there.
It's a ton. Yeah.
It's a ton of balls out there, and I know myself how many balls I've hit over there. And if,
Oh, you're the one.
yeah,
Okay.
those are probably all mine. So my concern is just general safety. And the fact that we already have a designated path that is marked. I don't know if I could justify, because that's a pretty substantive cost. So I mean, if people really want to do it, like I'm open to it. It's just that those are my concerns.
I think if I were to see the country club put up a net first,
Mhm.
then I'd be inclined to get on board with, okay, they do want to make this a usable space. But if
Then
they're
you have
not,
the net problem,
Yeah, people are going to clean up the net.
of course, and that's the thing. So
lose.
just.
That's what I think.
It's tough.
Trade-offs.
Mhm.
I would be though. I'm sorry. Go ahead, sir.
Oh, no. I was going to change the topic here.
Yeah.
Let's change topics.
That's.
Because you'd mentioned connecting the trail to the Loman's entrance so people can walk across to the new center.
Yeah, so I'd like to add
children
that one
from
to this
school.
street conversation because we do have I think our demographic has shifted significantly even since the beginning of the design work of the pedestrian trail. And because the pedestrian trail was designed just to be an enclosed loop, disregarding the need to exit or get across to Loman's. I don't know what that would look like. I don't know which street it would go down, but Wingreen or Cottondale, I think that there's an opportunity for just this tiny section of walking trail to extend it that way. I do know that development is going to be, or if it's done right, it is going to be very popular for our community to have access to. And I think we'll have walkers, riders, golf carts, all of the above kind of making their way that way. So I think that in the next 5 years, we should consider adding a small section of walking trail.
Could we sort of add that concept into the, Loman's Crossing side capital plan?
An expenditure, yeah.
Good point. It was all.
It's all related.
Seems like it, yeah.
And then, I mean, because
Good idea.
yeah. Is Cottondale wider?
Cottondale is, I think it appears wider because the homes, the setback is maybe a little
It's
bit
deeper.
different than what it is on Wingreen. Wingreen is very narrow with those
It's tight.
mailboxes
I think
right on
that's-
the street.
Yeah, that's.
And then the medians, yeah.
Yeah,
And I think the feasibility there was, it's always for right of way, I think it's a feasible, it's just the cost of rebuilding driveways, drainage and mailboxes.
yeah, because we'd either have to do what they do on Hills Drive and go around the mailbox that I don't even know.
Yeah, which were individual choices along the way, but yeah, I don't know what it looks like, but I think
I think
being able to enter and exit by foot on Lemons
it's
is
just
going to be
safer.
increasingly.
The 100 kids that walk in the neighborhood from school.
Okay, I'll add it as a sub item for the Lemons crossing.
So this may be just a dated Google. I think it crosses over, or where does it end over here? I may have to just.
Sorry, where are you looking?
Looking on the Hills Drive right by Cottondale. think it cuts over, right?
Yeah, it
Changes over,
goes,
yeah.
Yeah, what side it's on.
So it may go back to that side.
Oh, yeah, is it like, yeah, it's this side and then
It's like-
somewhere over here, like cuts across
Right
And
behind
at Bellwood or
at
whatever.
Velvet, exactly.
Yeah, so it cuts across over here somewhere. Yes, it's predated.
This is dated. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, the shortest point would be along Wind Green,
That might be a challenge.
but it might be the most challenging, yeah.
That would be
It might
ideal,
actually
'cause
be cost same if you
Yeah.
go one way or the other.
Because then also if you want to stay on there, I mean, half the neighborhood's over there, so it seems like Wind Green's kind of like a standard.
But it also might have increased traffic depending on the development and the front entryway. If that's gonna be, everyone has to shoot straight instead of turning.
Now, Wing Green gets very tight, especially when somebody has like a landscaping
Well, yeah,
contractor
yeah.
there.
That
Forget about
project
it.
on that house, yeah. Okay. Well, just
So this sliver of land here, so there's like this little walkway that I don't think this sliver of land
Oh,
right
it's
here, is that
yours.
POA or city?
You know,
Where the parking lot is on the inside? Because if you did a walkway that was here, it gives you room there.
it's POA.
But
So
where
that's the property line of
Yeah.
that residence.
Yeah, because we got the sidewalk that goes through. This actually goes through this park right here. There's a gate. I don't know if you walked through. There's a
I have
gate.
not.
But yeah, so it goes from the sidewalk to what the kids do is all the people, a lot of people picking up their kids will park along Cottondale.
Okay.
And they'll walk up this little sidewalk and it goes through. There's actually a gate right here. And you can walk through. So it's like what the kids do. And we used to have the console parked right here.
Yep.
And so kids like cross right here and go up this way and then go over here.
But if you move that north a little bit, it gives you room to potentially expand it if you need.
Yeah, we're gonna have to,
Yeah.
for the entry, we're gonna have to figure, that's exactly,
I think
we're gonna have
we
to
can
figure out what to do with that.
Yeah.
POA through that process and maybe have some.
Yeah, that might require
That's
movement
along the
of
way.
that sidewalk, I agree.
But then connecting it through Cottondale makes sense to me when I look at this.
Condell North.
Oh, okay.
I think that's what he means.
Yeah,
Yeah, well, then you have.
that's
you
pretty
still have
loopy
to-
though. You're going through Butterfly.
No, you still have to get a walking trail built on Wind Green or Cottondale. Yeah, I see.
Condell South is, I think, a lot easier.
Yeah, right, it looks like no
Yeah.
issues or less.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think how you.
But you have that-
Making people cross the entrance, but I don't think you can really.
I mean, ideally it'd be Wind Green, but I don't know if we can feasibly do that.
I mean, you have a lot of land on either side of the guard shack. So you can kind of replicate the gate and the little sidewalk thing on the south side.
But I don't think you'd want people to cross
Oh, that big traffic light.
the traffic light in and out
Yeah,
of the
especially those
neighborhood.
kids.
Huge
It'd be
traffic
better
light.
that they crossed inside the neighborhood, but it'd be ultimately the best if they
You're
don't
right.
have to cross Wind Green, Loman's entrance in and out.
You're right.
I mean,
Maybe you do both.
I'd be curious if the designer of the entrance, and this is, I apologize, it's getting a little off topic, but I want to bring it up, the POA and the redesign or potential reformatting of the entry. If at some point all cars have to shoot straight so that there's no additional stopping for turning right or left, or to keep the motion in progress of a car entering walls. So I don't know, that might create additional walls and walking trails to modify how those side streets are used.
All right, sounds like we got a lot to talk
I know.
about. Talk to the POA about.
I know, sounds like an engineer. Right, yes.
The rest repaving, POA,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, repave.
painting crosswalks, I believe that would also be a POA responsibility.
And if I might make a suggestion, Tom, if you're still tuning in on the repainting the crosswalks, there was a new material that was used for the crossover of the walking trail bridge extension that I find very favorable. It's a little bit, it's not paint, it's a kind of a tape application, and it has a high reflectivity and kind of a more noticeable roll across, just to consider.
No,
Great.
thank you. We have a new chair on the road committee, James Cook, who's got an engineering background and he's been pulling that stuff forward. So I'll make sure to share that with him as well. But yeah, thank you. very much aligned on that.
Thanks, Tom. And then radar speed signs, I think that came about when we were discussing the speed limit changes that.
I think at this point, with the change,
Yeah, I don't think I'd include that in the capital plan anyway.
I do think we could move our existing radar speed sign right here, Club Estates. It kind of, it's right by your intersection at General Brook, the hills, but it's not necessarily one of our trouble zones. I don't think could probably be replaced to somewhere where it's more of a.
You know, one
Speed
of my neighbors is sort of a legacy resident. Bill's been here for 30-some odd years. She remembered that when that radar speed sign was put in there on Club Estates, it was actually put on the wrong side. It was intended to hit traffic coming out of
The faster flowing of traffic.
Yeah,
That makes sense.
because it's so close to the hills and Club Estates intersection. Cars making that turn off the Hills Drive onto Club Estates, they aren't going to have enough time to work up to a speed that would be higher than the posted speed limit. But cars coming out of the club the other way would.
I wonder if our May 1st sign install guy could help rearrange that. Just,
I can ask him.
do you mind if we look at changing the one that's posted on that little
That's very logical. That's very logical.
yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Not something I thought about. That is incredibly logical.
Yeah, because the speeding definitely takes place as you go north and then turn right on the Hills Drive and go down the hill over the bridge is where I think there's a lot of speeding.
So if we just relocate a new sign on the right side of the road.
I think Andrea also hit, let me see where her thing, since we're talking about radar signs, I think they have some other ideas. I'm sure she did.
Landscaping at the park table.
She also had turtle crossing signs,
Oh.
which actually I would like to, if anybody is inclined to have turtle crossing signs.
I'm in support.
I think we could do that without it being capital expense. Do
Yeah,
you want me to help you or work with Stokes and?
yeah, we should do that.
Is that really what it sounds like?
Yeah,
It is,
people, yeah, there's a lot of turtles and they get crushed and it's pretty, some people do actually do it intentionally, which I have seen myself, which is not cool. But turtle crossing signs just generally be good, so people are.
Are they for the turtles or for the drivers? Are they?
Looks like the turtles intentionally do, is that what you said?
The turtles can't read.
Yeah.
They're about.
Yeah, crosswalk for the turtle.
Although they
We're gonna build a school, they're gonna learn to read.
Yeah.
they can recognize images.
Yeah, exactly. Good for it.
Okay, I'll make it.
They're almost there.
No, that's a very,
So what are you
Great
supposed to do
suggestion.
if you see a turtle crossing sign?
Look for turtles.
And then what?
it's indicative of like when you see duck crossing signs, there's
Just
just,
be aware, hey,
there's
turtles cross here a lot.
we know deer crossings
Deer
too.
crossing, yeah.
We know that there's wildlife existing.
Okay.
I think it's an interesting way to get awareness too.
Yeah, like, hey, there's turtles.
Be aware of your surroundings.
You know, I'll occasionally stop and save a turtle. You might be, put them across.
Yeah, I've done that.
Yeah.
Or flip them over.
Maybe people will know, that's
Oh,
why
good.
somebody's parked over there sometimes.
Mhm. We're flipping turtles over.
Yeah.
And the right way.
I think that takes care of a lot of the street and road.
Mhm.
I'm just trying to skim.
I mean, if we're on street, road, / already walking past stuff, do we need to, and again, this is probably not a capital improvement, but I think at some point we should probably talk about a maintenance plan, which we brought up before for the walking trail.
No.
Fixing stone, if we want
Sounds
to clean everything up, if it's feasible to do that, or if there's a way to do it cost effectively.
I actually saw,
Or if they can like soft wash this down or something.
even just like bringing a street sweeper through, something of the sort, but I've seen, yesterday I saw 2 broken stones that I meant to flag you just as a general maintenance that need to come in and get fixed, but there's a repair too where the drainage is just not flowing out across from 129 and Hills Drive, and I think, but I think that would be a maintenance.
Yeah.
So we budget,
There's a repairs as opposed to.
we budget 15,
I'm working on a budget spreadsheet, so, or like, taking
Yeah.
notes on one, so I'll share it with you.
so we budget 15,000 a year
Oh, so
for
we
walking
didn't.
trail maintenance.
Okay, so we just need to, okay, good. So we
that's
discussed
already-
that. We did discuss that. So we just need to ramp that up.
Yeah, we just need to find a vendor that can.
Perfect. I can do that. Hey, thanks for flagging that.
That's in the budget.
I'll say, I take my leaf blower down and blow off the bridge over the dam
Oh, nice.
once every other month or so. That's free, but.
So far, yeah, I'm just saying for now. So free for now. Until I heard about the budget.
Gotta submit a W-9.
Yeah, I wonder if there is, a service that could come.
There's gotta be, whether that's part of the
Schedule it once
landscaping
a
or
month,
separate
yeah.
crew.
Come blow off.
Yeah, that's in the budget and it looks like we haven't spent against it, but this may be a little bit dated. What I'm looking at.
I hope research.
Landscaping crew do some type of regular maintenance.
Oh, that's
Just kind
true.
of clean up on the walking trail.
I would think that they would do that. Let me just double check it.
And if we found one that did stonework as well, we could ask them about repairing any broken stones.
Mhm. The person who's installing our signs for us, are they general maintenance kind of repair person? Like they can do masonry too?
I believe so.
Okay, maybe we already have someone.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. 15,000 a year, I'm not gonna hit it. So.
I'll send in an invoice.
Yeah. I'm sure Hayden Alvey would like to send it in West,
There's a lot of neighbors that do
Yeah.
on their own time,
Yeah, exactly.
clean the areas, so we appreciate it, but we should definitely do that.
Mhm.
Hey,
The topic.
if you want to keep doing that, that's fine. Otherwise, we can just go back to Lee's thing here and just start talking about the city.
Yeah, that's what you're doing anyway.
Yeah, let's keep going down the list.
Well, can I generally pick the next topic of utilization of the park as it relates to sporting and activity? Kind of taking a tone from Lee's comprehensive scope, we have listed out there the recommendations for enhancing lighting and lanes. Well, let's start with sports, sorry. Tennis courts, a sand pit. Again, tennis courts with hitting back forward and pickleball courts. I was very hands-on with the park revitalization project. Was anyone else in the room part of that?
No.
So the general concept of that was utilizing the best efforts to keep nature as a primary preservation. And if there were amenities that were accessible locally, that we wouldn't additionally add them to us. So we discussed at that time, the sand volleyball pit, and for various reasons, including that Lakeway has it, but also our own maintenance, rodent issue, et cetera. We declined that from that project entirely. Pickleball courts came up in that conversation. That one, that along with the tennis court, that wasn't so much of a conversation, but I would kind of relate them together. Were declined due to the fact that we have that accessibility within a 5-mile radius at the World of Tennis. We're all required to be social members. I know that doesn't extend also to tennis, but it is an option to have available for utilization. Plus it would take up native natural space. Now that we've seen increasing usage of the park. I still don't know that I definitely have the opinion that a sand pit or volleyball court was the commentary resulting from those conversations was that it would just be a nuisance for operation purposes and animal litter box. Nor did we have necessarily the perfect space for it to keep it in good condition. But that's a quick recap of what had happened in those conversations. But
Right now, we have basketball court and soccer field,
Mhm.
and I guess kind of a kids' play skate.
A couple of two,
Yeah.
like,
Two playgrounds.
two different size places.
Yeah, okay.
In the music.
Music circle,
Oh, yeah, the
dog
music
park, walking trail.
And there's a pull-up bar.
I was gonna say, some sweet workout.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Marty has to pick his legs up for, but there's a pull-up bar out there too.
I mean, I do see, I have driven by and I've seen people setting up their own pickleball net on the basketball court. They have duct taped little corners on the basketball court to be able to utilize it as a pickleball court. I don't necessarily drive by and see, I mean, occasionally I'll see the basketball court being used for basketball. But it does create a thought of modifying the use of the basketball court for more of a multi-use court.
You could put fencing around it and then some sort of net that, I don't know, if they can build a net that retracts or
So-
something like that.
Most residential, not most, but some residential tennis courts you'll see also have basketball nets on either end. Ours is not slated to be tennis court size, but
Okay.
could be utilized for pickleball. Pickleball is a noise pollution of sorts.
Yeah, I
Reservation process.
I share your view on the pickleball facility in the park, primarily because I'd be concerned about sort of the noise issue for the neighbors who live close to the park. Pickleball, unfortunately, is kind of a loud game,
Mhm.
and the pink of the ball actually carries pretty far. So I would be reluctant for us to install anything kind of permanent for pickleball in the park. I kind of think similarly of tennis courts, frankly, just because of the O&M issues involved in maintaining tennis courts.
Mhm.
And the fact that we have beautiful tennis and pickleball facilities at the club. To me, it's the nicest in Travis County, frankly.
Mhm.
Or certainly in Western Travis County. And it's an amenity that's available to our neighbors pretty easily.
Mhm.
I'm not sure how I feel about using, sort of spreading the cost burden for those across the entire community as opposed to leaving the cost burden for tennis and pickleball access to people who are actually using it.
Marty, do you have a stat on how many community members are
Yeah,
elevated?
Yeah, my understanding is roughly 2/3 of residents are above a social membership.
Wow.
And that would include X-Life or is that tennis?
I assume wellness.
Just above social.
Okay.
So it
Yeah,
could be
not including
fitness, it could be tennis,
Yeah.
it could be golf,
Mhm.
be a combination.
Yeah.
So it seems that our residents are selecting to have increased amenities on their own
Mhm.
because they don't have them in their own backyard, which is, whatever.
It's what the club's for, frankly. It's a great amenity for the neighborhood.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yes. I think that the council chose the right projects to do at the park during the revitalization project. And there were still some left on the table, including an additional pavilion, like a smaller pavilion over by the sports field or by the closer to the playground for party purposes, like a detached one. There was also like This, remember, it's like a sculpture garden. That was part of the project list that was still remaining. Those park improvements were more favorable than more athletic processes, but I'm surprised no one added to this to essentially turf the field at this point yet, but, and I'm not throwing that out there, at this point, but I think that could be on a much longer term list if we struggle to maintain grass.
If we struggle to maintain the grass, is that because of the utilization or the maintenance of the grass? That's hard.
I think both. I think utilization is increasing.
Yeah.
And so that create more issues on.
Or would look nice.
So many people would go out there.
Endocrine disruptor though.
Yeah.
That's unhealthy.
There are concerns.
There.
But it does look nice.
I mean, just think about everybody if you went out. I think that I do think actually, I wasn't contemplating turfing, but if you were to do that, I think utilization would increase just from people hanging out in the park more. Because if you go to like the Galleria, like people like going to sit out there on the grass and post up like on a nice day. That's nice. I mean, I think it's either like grass needs to be super well maintained, like Central Park style, or if you were to turf it, it would increase utilization if that's our goal.
Yeah, I think turf with the shading that Gary's thinking of, the removable shading, would be used a lot. Do
We
you
would
guys
definitely have to have like a pavilion or some type of shading where you install.
Yeah, he's got an idea in his head of, there's like canopy shades, the triangle canopy shades, and then you can put removable, like the flag campaign.
Yeah, it'd have to be, it has to be like a metal plate above there.
In-ground metal plate, they call that a sleeve. It's a sleeve in the ground. That's permanent forever. And then you just put a pole in that you hang the triangle canopy shades from when needed.
I'd rather just build another pavilion. I think it'd be more sightly, more aesthetically pleasing.
It could be done nicely.
It's a good Band-Aid, I think, but I think I want to look at capital improvements and like these projects as like super long term. Like when I'm gone, what will still be here? So I would say, let's make the project bigger.
Yeah, go figure. So the basketball court doesn't get used much? I don't see it. I've never really seen it.
See kids messing around on it.
Yeah.
Back to the point, like we had turf, like I think people will go use that area more.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, it kind of depends on what people's vision is for I like the vision that the prior council had set up with more nature oriented generally, but I would like to see the park used as a park and kids and people going out there. I mean, there's lots of stuff you could do on turf. We'd actually contemplated, I think we actually did partially grade that field and level it out a bit. Not as much as I would have liked. I thought it would have been worth like grading the entire area and making it just more usable. But it kind of depends on people's vision, like if we would like to see increased community usage as opposed to, and again, it kind of goes to like the parks, but I'm not sure if we need tennis courts and that kind of stuff. I agree with Lee's perspective. But if everybody agrees with the general vibe and aesthetic of nature oriented, again, like they made the decision, but we can always adapt to whatever our if we all, have a vision for what we're thinking for the park.
Do we still have an existing park master plan? Okay.
Been a long time since I've looked at it.
So the question, I guess, would be, do we want to modify any parts of it at this point? Is it codified at all? Or is it just sort of a document that prior council adopted?
It was a document.
Okay.
I can share that around. What I'm coming to realize is maybe that for the purpose of today with the capital planning workshop is maybe just indicating on our on the capital improvement plan that we would set aside some funds for park improvements.
I think that's
generally, and letting the Parks and Rec Commission kind of vet those out alongside council.
I think that's right.
If we keep the pavilions as a separate topic.
That's, I would like, if we're gonna move on to that, I'd like to go into executive session since
Can we, I was gonna ask, I don't even know.
We can.
Yeah. Since,
related to real
workshop.
property.
since we don't have it marked,
Yeah, we don't have it marked and Josh says this, if this is a workshop, you don't have an executive session at all.
Okay.
Are you sure?
That's what Josh told me.
I thought.
Cause you
I'd like-
don't make any,
I'd like to
On any
push
topic.
back on that because I would really would like, because there's something concerning real property that I think is sensitive enough to be an executive.
Can you call him right now, Angie? Just check on, do you mind? Is that okay?
we don't have it on the agenda though.
Pardon me?
well, yeah, just can you, if you want to step out and call.
Okay.
And just say, hey, like there's something we need to discuss in an executive session.
But while she's doing that, when it comes to the park, I do think playgrounds are great. The long slide, there's a bit of a hazard on the far side where there's like the erosion and the step downs.
Yeah.
And I think we need to put a railing sort of system up there by that tall slide. And then remove the rope.
I was gonna say, so the one side, the closer side is the rope and the wood.
On the
Isn't there like wood
hillside.
or something like?
There is. So there's the one side that has
Yeah.
the stair step
Okay.
that's intended for you to climb
Yeah,
up.
yeah.
And then there's another side that has
A rock wall.
probably not the rock wall, but like foot and a half wooden erosion barriers on the
Like
way up,
retaining walls.
And there's like a rope that's like designed that you hold onto the rope and you climb up these big steps. But I think what's been expressed by people on the park commission is that it's dangerous. The wood is starting to come off. And so perhaps at the top of the tall slide, we put some railing to discourage people from climbing up the side that doesn't have the stair step or the rock wall. Yeah, it's the other side.
Makes sense.
But I also think that in general in the park, I think that's the best area other than like the entrance issue to invest money in general. So if that's turf, I do like the idea of like tennis courts. I understand that there is a club, but I also, I've lived in different neighborhoods that have tennis courts and have pools, and also have country clubs nearby. So there's like a city or a POA managed recreational area in addition to there being private clubs that you can join.
Yeah.
And I don't necessarily think we should always just assume that the club is going to be there and operate, like it is today. You're not really in control of that.
Well, I agree with the sentiment. The thing that concerns me about the tennis courts, it goes back to the public park issue. That would be my biggest concern.
Yeah, I understand that.
What's that? What's the public park issue?
We have a public park and anybody can come use it.
Yeah, that's true today.
Same issue with the turf. I could see if we had a big soccer, like regulation size turf, people coming in, like, LTYA.
Well, we could limit, I think you could probably do something with the limits, like organized sports on a turf field.
Yeah, we can impose reasonable time, place, and manner restrictions on any use.
I mean, I think there's actually already a restriction. There might be a restriction on organized sports there now, maybe.
Yes, there had been one established. I don't know where it's documented.
So one of the things that does come up sometimes
Yeah.
is like shade, like having more shade areas. I think there's some trees. We can obviously plant more trees, but I think the shade area is a reason that some people go to like Dragon Park and some of the other parks in Lakeway from our community is to have, more shade coverage on the playground. I've heard that.
So like on the, like above the playground, so like at BK Park where they have like the, okay.
Yeah, like the big, cover areas. I've heard, shade being something that people would seek out and even, my kids, Name takes them to Dragon Park or some of the other parks that have, the big cover things on top of the playground. So it's fully shaded in the summer. Something to consider. But I think, Sarah, my comment was just reinvesting in the park to me is next to the entrance and the walkways. One of the best returns of investing capital long term.
Myers, you worked with her on that park.
Martin, you were talking about potentially turfing some of the park. Well, where would you turf it?
I don't think that's a great idea, but I think,
it gets hot.
It does. It
And
gets
you have to maintain
super
it
hot.
actually.
It's very expensive to replace. It's like a 7, it depends, I guess. It's like a 7-year life or something.
But is the lifetime maintenance higher than regular grass with
No,
water and all that?
It's less from watering, but
Yeah.
you have to consider the cost. And it's not cheap. They go out and put like 4 inches of decomposed granite, they pack it down, nail it in. But one of the, part of the maintenance issues is like pollen, tree debris.
Yeah.
So you have to go out and blow it off, or you have to actually get a turf
Vacuum.
and so it's not totally maintenance free.
And then if you want to reverse course, you got to take all that gravel out.
Oh, you can't. I mean, you're talking tons of gravel that they're going to go dump on it. And
So then just go grass over that instead.
I don't know how you do. I mean, undoing that would probably cost more than putting it in.
Sounds like a big project.
It would definitely be a big one.
Yeah, I'd be curious for the park if there's other playscapes, like the music circle, that are unique, but also zero maintenance.
I can find her document.
I like that exploration and even if not like a volleyball, but like little sand area for kids or I don't know. I think I like the idea of thinking of more
Features.
Yeah, definitely.
Definitely sounds like there's a lot more to contemplate on the park.
Maybe we can ask the Parks Commission to kind of look through different, like sales catalogs of these playground companies.
If and when I find the consolidated initial master plan for the park from Kelly Myers, I will send it to you. It's a good launching point for conversations, I think.
Cool.
If the Parks Commission ever looks at that master plan.
I don't know if
I mean, that's actually really interesting. There's no mini golf.
then you're not competing with the club, you're getting the kids in.
I think something like that is really
you
fun.
might even be able to brand it with the club might want to sponsor it, brand it as you're teaching little kids.
So then enclose it and do that.
For sure. I'm just thinking of the, have you ever seen Portlandia?
Find the thing.
You ever been to Portlandia?
Basically.
For where?
Portlandia, that's what it's called, Portlandia. They do this, they do this event where these artists build these different floors, but they're like climbing friendly.
I gotta go find.
Oh, I've seen them, like the big netting situation.
Yeah, some, they're all different.
I've
They're all
tried
different,
it.
but just kind of what I'm picturing with the mini golf. Like double use.
Yeah.
I love the idea. I like ideas like that for the park, like little more things than just, swinging and sliding.
Yeah.
The ping pong table, I thought,
Like a nice cement.
Disease, maybe? Oh, sanitary.
For what?
splash pad.
I wanted one of those so bad, and then when he allowed me to continue researching that on the Parks and Rec Commission, and it got totally denied due to the fact that there's significant water regulations with those, and the way that we have water there, it's not the correct
That cleans it up.
thing. Yeah, there was something about that, and the routine costs and maintenance associated to it.
Somebody told me that
almost daily chlorination required by a
We go,
professional.
our kids go play at Flint Rock, the other ones around the,
LA Play Center.
I think there's some other ones in other neighborhoods that other POAs have.
Good old tax dollars going to work there on a daily basis then.
You don't put a quarter in the in the machine for that.
For the efficiencies of our city operations, it was not conducive
That makes sense.
to. But I wrote the littles and that's so badly too.
Is there anything else you want to discuss before we do our song and dance for executive session? These more family community events. I think that's a great idea. That's part of the parks budget.
Yeah, I think it ties into the park.
Yeah, to the parks budget.
Mhm.
And then community center is a project that will need to take holistically with other real estate needs that we're gonna discuss.
Exactly.
So as a practical matter, maybe we could just refer a lot of these particular park enhancement items over to let them kind of chew on them and bring us their recommendations.
Okay.
Here's like an example of an outdoor, sorry, I'm getting a little carried away here, but yeah, you know, something like that.
To process.
You don't have to do anything too fancy, but I think that you can do some landscaping around it or something.
Put it over by the dog park to draw people over some useful area.
Or even next to the little pavilion. You know, dog park.
It's how to be part of the dog park.
Shaded,
Yeah.
all that cedar
Integrate.
shade area maybe.
Yeah.
Stuff there and-
It's a different set of hazards, I guess.
Yes.
Hi, Hilda. You joined and we're about to do an executive session, but why don't you say hello?
You want me to quickly recap my notes?
Yeah,
to
let's
make
just
sure
do,
that
let's
I
do a
have
recap and
favorable-
then make sure we have next steps so we can do our legal advice for the executive session.
And please correct me and make changes, but I have 3 main bullet points for capital improvement plan. First being the Loman's Crossing enhancement, including wall, landscaping, entrance, walking trail connection.
Yes.
Bullet point 2, I have Loman's Crossing traffic light, but that's a contract, so it might not necessarily end in our capital, but we'll ensure that we continue to set aside those dollars for that. And then third item being parking improvements. And I have noted under there slide, erosion, weatherizing restrooms, putt putt. And then more to be discussed by the Parks and Rec Commission.
And then separate, figure out walking trail, cleaning / maintenance,
Okay.
turtle signage, and the speed limit radar sign. Move,
Looking at.
flipping it.
And just as a note, if we do need to buy another one of those speed limit radar signs, the ones that flash blue and red are like, I think, way more effective.
I agree.
I agree.
I don't know that we so I was not.